Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 66, and in the main event, we have a middleweight fight, Cannonier versus Sean Strickland, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction. I'm really looking forward to this card. It is a stacked fight night card. It feels so good saying that about a UFC fight night card. I am so tired of the Mackenzie Dern, Yan Xiaonans, the Alexa Grasso versus Viviane Araújo, and just some of these terrible UFC Apex fight night cards. Cannonier versus Sean Strickland in UFC Vegas 66 is a very good card, and this is a very relevant main event to the division. You have two guys who are ranked in the top 10, and depending on how Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2 plays out, one of these two guys could be in title contention. You know, obviously, if Alex Pereira is able to hang on to the belt in the rematch against Israel Adesanya, that basically opens up the division for all the middleweight contenders, especially for Cannonier, considering he's ranked close to the top, but he has a recent loss to Israel Adesanya. And for Sean Strickland, if Israel Adesanya is able to reclaim his belt from Alex Pereira, there's not a lot of whole new matchups for Israel Adesanya. You know, Sean Strickland's already fought Alex Pereira. We'll talk about that in a second. But outside of Alex Pereira, if he loses, Adesanya beats him in the rematch, takes the belt back, and, you know, we don't end up seeing a trilogy, because that's also a possibility. We could see Sean Strickland get a big win over Cannonier and get thrust right into a title shot, because Adesanya has already fought pretty much the who's who of the top 10 of the middleweight division. So a very relevant fight for both guys, very important fight for both guys. And also stylistically, this is a fan-friendly matchup. Both guys are primarily strikers, and I think this is going to be a very exciting matchup. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, you have Cannonier, who's 15-6. Sean Strickland is 25-4. Cannonier is ranked number 3. Strickland is ranked number 7 in the UFC official rankings. Cannonier is 38. Strickland is 31. Cannonier is 5'11". Strickland is 6'1". Cannonier has a 77.5-inch reach, and Strickland has a 76-inch reach. So a slight height advantage for Strickland and a slight reach advantage for Cannonier. If you look at Sean Strickland's pro MMA record, of his 25 pro MMA wins, 10 by knockout, 4 by submission, 11 by decision. Of his 4 losses, 2 by knockout and 2 by decision. His last fight was at UFC 276 against Alex Pereira. This was on the same card of Cannonier versus Israel Adesanya. And actually, I forgot to mention in the beginning, Cannonier versus Sean Strickland was originally supposed to happen in October. Sean Strickland had some type of infection, and it got postponed till December, and that's why we're here at UFC Vegas 66. But his last fight, Sean Strickland's last fight, was against Alex Pereira at UFC 276. He got brutally finished in the first round. And just move forward. Alex Pereira is an amazing counter striker. Strickland moved forward, didn't try to grapple, kept his hands down low, got clipped with a nasty left hook, and gets brutally finished in the first round. Not much to take away from that. A lot of people going into that fight were saying, if Sean Strickland grapples, he's going to win this fight, and he's going to win it pretty easily. And going into that fight, I debated it back and forth. I said, you know what? I don't think Strickland's going to go in there and grapple. Sure enough, he goes in there, tries to kickbox with one of the best kickboxers in the UFC. He gets brutally finished. Before that, he was on a massive 6-fight win streak. He last fought Jack Hermanson February of 2022, the last fight before Alex Pereira. And this wasn't like a crazy impressive fight, but he went out there and busted up Jack Hermanson. It was a split decision win, but it should have been a unanimous decision. I don't remember which rounds I had for who, but Strickland basically went in there, you know, busted Jack Hermanson up on the feet and stuffed the majority of the takedowns. Fight before that was against Uriah Hall. Pretty much same story for most Strickland's fights. I mean, he likes to go out there, keep the fight standing, move forward, and just throw combinations. He went out there, not a super impressive win over Uriah Hall, and look where Uriah Hall is now, but went out there, just beat up Uriah Hall on the feet. Outside of that, I mean, you're looking at Krzysztof Jotko, solid win. You know, he went out there, beat him by decision as well. His last finish was against Brendan Allen back in November 2020. You know, that is what it is. Brendan Allen's kind of having a little bit of a resurgence, but I've never been a big believer in him. And, you know, you look at Sean Strickland's resume, even though he's ranked number 7 in the UFC middleweight division, he hasn't really fought that many great fighters in the middleweight division. I mean, his best win's Jack Hermanson. Don't get me wrong, that's a decent win. And then outside of that, I mean, the resume isn't that great. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He's been in the UFC since 2014. He initially fought at welterweight, Fought Santiago Ponzinibbio all the way back in 2015, lost that fight. Fought Kamaru Usman back in 2017, lost that fight. So even at welterweight, the best fighters that he's fought, he's ended up losing to. So not the greatest resume, but Sean Strickland nonetheless still a top 10 middleweight. You look at Jared Cannonier, of his 15 pro MMA wins, 10 by knockout, 2 by submission, 3 by decision. Of his 6 losses, 2 by knockout and 4 by decision. He comes into this fight also on a 1-fight losing streak. His last fight was also at UFC 276 against Israel Adesanya. Not a super eventful fight. Not a lot went on here. Israel Adesanya just did what Israel Adesanya did, just counterstruck. Jared Cannonier was gun shy in this fight, didn't really throw a whole lot. Not a really eventful fight. The fight before that was at UFC 271 against Derek Brunson. Jared Cannonier faced some adversity in this first round. He was taken down by Brunson. I think even at one point Derek Brunson had his back. But Cannonier came out in the second round, landed a big shot, and then eventually had Brunson stumbling all over the place, got him to the ground, and brutally finished him on the ground in that second round. Fight before that was a fight against Kelvin Gastelum. This was a very close fight. This was not a robbery, but I scored this fight for Kelvin Gastelum. I thought Kelvin Gastelum had won this fight, but it was very close, back and forth. Cannonier dropped Kelvin Gastelum in this fight. He looked good. I just scored it for Kelvin Gastelum. The fight before that, he fought Robert Whittaker at UFC 254. This was pretty much all Robert Whittaker, except I think in the third round, Jared Cannonier kind of stung Robert Whittaker, kind of had him on shaky legs. Didn't get super close to the finish, but again, this is Robert Whittaker. This is one of the best in the division. Before that, has a TKO win over Jack Hermanson, an opponent in common with Sean Strickland. Has a win over Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was on his way out at that point in time. Has a win over David Branch, which I think is decent. But, you know, that's basically his entire middleweight run. This Jared Cannonier, this guy used to fight all the way at heavyweight. He has a KO loss to Sean Jordan. Then he went down to light heavyweight. He has a loss to Glover Teixeira. He has a loss to Jan Blachowicz. He has a loss to Dominic Reyes. He's never been finished at middleweight. He's only been finished at heavyweight and light heavyweight within the UFC. So he's really never, I mean, it's crazy to think he's been in the UFC for so long. He's been in the UFC since 2015, so he's been in the UFC for 7 years, and he's only been finished by Sean Jordan, a heavyweight, Jan Blachowicz, and Dominic Reyes. He's fought Robert Whittaker, did not get finished, fought Israel Adesanya, did not get finished. So a pretty solid resume, even though I know some of the best guys that he's fought, he's lost to, but still a very solid resume. When I look at this fight, I really think this fight is going to be primarily standing, and I do think this is a close fight. I do think this fight is hard to pick. I think it could go either way. You have Strickland, who I think is a little bit more technical striker, but he's really incredibly one-dimensional. He plots forward. He throws combinations. He doesn't have like crazy nuclear power. He can't really put your lights out with one shot. He's more like an accumulation guy, but he does bust guys up. He's not one of those guys that just throwing pitter-patter shots, volume, like similar to Colby Covington, where they're not doing a whole lot of damage, but they're just winning on volume. Sean Strickland throws volume, but he's also busting guys up. He has, you know, a little bit of power, not enough to put you out, but enough to, you know, break your nose and bust up your lips and just get you cut up in the fight. And he's not a guy that's going to look to grapple. Supposedly he has great grappling. He's shown really good takedown defense, but we've never seen him use it offensively. And for Jared Cannonier, similar style. He's more of a brawler, has really good leg kicks, and he does have that nuclear power. He can put you out with one shot. He's throwing everything to kill. He has really good defensive wrestling as well. You know, we've never really seen anyone go out there and take him down and control him, at least not at middleweight. And, you know, he's a guy that's not going to go out there and look to use offensive wrestling. I don't think we've really ever seen him use his offensive wrestling as a primary weapon to win his fight. So when I look at this matchup, I really see two potential outcomes. I see either Jared Cannonier by finish or I see Sean Strickland by decision. I think those are the two most likely outcomes. Neither one of these guys is going to win by submission. I could see Jared Cannonier also potentially winning by decision. He has very good cardio. So does Sean Strickland. But I think if you think Sean Strickland's going to win, it has to be by decision. He's not finishing Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier, I know he's getting up there in age, but he's never been finished at middleweight. And, you know, for Sean Strickland, he hasn't been finished a whole lot, but he is coming off that KO loss to Alex Pereira. Jared Cannonier has nuclear power as well. And I just think the path to victory for Jared Cannonier is a brutal KO or a brutal TKO. And for Sean Strickland, I think via decision is most likely. For my official prediction, I've been tossing those two back and forth. I am going to go with Jared Cannonier via 4th round TKO. I think this is going to be a competitive fight. I think it's going to be a close fight. But one thing I think that is going to be a massive factor in this matchup is the leg kicks of Jared Cannonier. He has some of the most powerful leg kicks in the middleweight division. And what does Sean Strickland do? He moves forward. He's heavy on that lead leg. And he uses his pressure and his volume to win fights. And if Jared Cannonier is brutally chopping that lead leg of Sean Strickland from the beginning, I think it's going to be tough for him to continue to find success with the volume, with the pressure. He's not going to be able to pressure Jared Cannonier the way he wants to. And I think Strickland's going to land some good shots. He's going to be pumping that jab. I don't think Cannonier's going to shoot for a takedown. I don't think Sean Strickland's really going to shoot for a takedown. I could see a little bit of clinch work going on, but I think the way this fight's going to go on, it's going to be competitive early. I could see maybe Strickland taking the first round on volume, but as the fight goes on, I think Cannonier's just going to land the more powerful shots. And I think eventually in that 3rd round or 4th round, I think as they start to wear down a little bit, as each of them start to find their timing a little bit more, I think the early leg kicks of Jared Cannonier is going to start limiting the mobility of Sean Strickland. And I think eventually Jared Cannonier is going to find the chin of Sean Strickland and put him away via TKO in the 4th round. I just think it comes down to the power and the leg kicks of Jared Cannonier. And Strickland, for me, I get that he's an all right fighter. He's an okay fighter. He just hasn't been able to show against the elite of the elite that he can get wins. His best win is against Jack Hermanson, which I don't think is a terrible win. But we've seen Jared Cannonier go out there and perform against the likes of Kelvin Gastelum, who I know at this point in time hasn't looked the greatest, kind of on the decline. But against Robert Whittaker as well, looked decent in that fight. And I just don't think Sean Strickland has fought that level of opposition. And I think this fight, he has a chance at winning. But 5 rounds for Cannonier to find that one shot to rock him. And then Jared Cannonier has an unbelievable killer instinct. If he hurts you, he looks for that finish. I mean, we saw it in the Derek Brunson fight. Derek Brunson's corner actually threw in the towel. And once Cannonier gets you to the ground, like if he rocks Sean Strickland, I think he'll probably rock Sean Strickland, drop him in the 4th round, and then probably finish him off with ground and pound elbows. Cannonier has some of the most ferocious ground and pound we've seen. And, I just don't think Sean Strickland can go out there for 5 rounds, be able to keep the pressure he wants to keep on Jared Cannonier, be able to outbox him for 5 rounds, and not get caught with a big shot. And I think Cannonier can hang in there. Even if Cannonier isn't able to finish him, I think Cannonier can still win a decision, just chopping the legs of Sean Strickland. He's so heavy on that lead leg. I think Jared Cannonier is going to go out there, chop that lead leg, and I think the 1st and 2nd are going to be like, okay, well, either guy could have won this round, but maybe it goes to Cannonier, maybe it goes to Strickland. But as we start to get to that 3rd and 4th round, where both guys start to slow down a little bit, but both guys are starting to really get each other's timing, I think that's when Cannonier's really going to shine and find those big shots, bust Sean Strickland up, and finish him on the ground, 4th round TKO. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.